The reunion of the lost void between stars had never felt so alive. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as 6 other massive vessels emerged from hyperspace around the designated coordinates. Each ship was a marvel of human engineering, born from desperation and forged in the fires of survival. For 150 years, these 7 seedships had wandered the galaxy alone, carrying the last fragments of humanity after Earth's destruction by the Calaxian Empire. Maya pressed her hand against the viewport, feeling the slight vibration of the ship's hull. The Prometheus had been humanity's agricultural vessel, designed to carry seeds, genetic samples, and the knowledge of Earth's green worlds. Over the decades, her people had become master botanists and bioengineers, creating food sources that could sustain life in the harshest environments. But they had also become warriors, because survival in the void demanded both nurturing and fighting. "Captain, we're receiving communications from all 6 vessels," reported Lieutenant Torres from the communication station. Her voice carried the accent of the hydroponics decks, where most of the ship's population had been born and raised under artificial suns. Maya nodded, her dark eyes reflecting the lights of the approaching ships. Each vessel told a story of human adaptation and resilience. The Icarus carried the engineers and manufacturers, their ship bristling with construction modules and fabrication arrays. The Athena housed the scientists and researchers, their vessels sleek and filled with laboratories and computational cores. The Hercules was the military seed ship, angular and aggressive, designed to protect the others. The Gaia carried the artists, philosophers, and cultural preservers, their ship beautiful and organic in design. The Odyssey held the explorers and scouts, built for speed and reconnaissance. Finally, the Lazarus was the medical ship, equipped with the most advanced healing technologies humanity had ever created. "Open channels to all vessels," Maya commanded, straightening her uniform. The fabric was woven from biofibers grown in the Prometheus's own labs, practical yet elegant. "This is Captain Maya Chen of the Prometheus. Today marks the end of our long exile. Today we reunite not as scattered survivors, but as the foundation of a new human civilization." The responses came in waves. Captain Rodriguez of the Icarus, his gruff voice carrying the satisfaction of a man who had built worlds with his bare hands. Captain Okafor of the Athena, precise and analytical, already calculating the logistics of their reunion. Captain Volkov of the Hercules, tactical and direct, concerned about security protocols. Captain Tanaka of the Gaia, speaking in measured tones about the cultural significance of their gathering. Captain O'Brien of the Odyssey, eager and restless, ready to explore new frontiers together. And Captain Patel of the Lazarus, warm and caring, already planning medical exchanges between their populations. For the next several hours, the 7 ships arranged themselves in a perfect heptagon, their formation creating a symbolic unity in the starlight. Shuttles began moving between vessels, carrying delegates, gifts, and most importantly, genetic samples to ensure the long-term survival of their species. Maya watched as families separated for generations were reunited, as lovers found each other across the void, as children met cousins they had only heard about in stories. The Prometheus's contribution to the reunion was substantial. Their hydroponics specialists had developed crops that could grow in zero gravity. Their geneticists had preserved Earth's biodiversity in ways that even the planet's original ecosystems couldn't match. Maya felt pride swelling in her chest as she watched her people share their knowledge, their joy, their hope for the future. But Maya carried a deeper purpose than mere survival. She had been working toward this moment for decades, ever since the Prometheus had intercepted fragments of communications from the other seed. In her private quarters, she had assembled a comprehensive plan for human reunification, complete with governmental structures, resource-sharing protocols, and defense strategies. Humanity would not just survive, it would thrive as the day progressed. The 7 captains gathered aboard the Prometheus for a formal ceremony. Maya had prepared the ship's largest hydroponics bay for the occasion, transforming it into a garden that represented Earth's lost beauty. Trees from every continent grew under artificial sunlight, their leaves rustling in the carefully controlled atmosphere. Flowers bloomed in patterns that spelled out words in a dozen human languages. The air itself smelled of home, of the world they had lost but would never forget. We stand here not as the last of humanity, but as the first of something new, Maya announced to the assembled captains and their senior staff. Our children will inherit not just our memories of Earth, but our dreams of what humanity can become. Together, we will build a civilization that honors our past while embracing our future. The ceremony was interrupted by alarms. Sharp, urgent, sounds that cut through the peaceful atmosphere like a blade. Lieutenant Taurus's voice crackled over the communications system. Captain Chen, we have multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Configuration unknown, but they're big. Very big. Maya's blood ran cold. She had planned for this possibility, but had hoped it would never come. The Calaxian Empire had found them. The captains rushed to the bridge, their faces grim with the knowledge that their reunion might become a funeral. The main display showed 12 vessels emerging from hyperspace, each one dwarfing the human siege. The Calaxian ships were works of art in their own right, curved and flowing like living creatures, their hulls shimmering with an opalescent sheen that seemed to shift between colors. But they were also weapons, designed to project power and inspire fear. "They're not attacking," reported Captain Volkov from the Hercules, holding position at the edge of our formation, waiting for something. Maya stared at the display, her mind racing through tactical possibilities. The Calaxian Empire had conquered Earth not through superior numbers, but through technology so advanced that resistance had been futile. These 12 ships could destroy the 7 seed ships without taking damage, and everyone on the bridge knew it. "Incoming transmission," Torres announced. "It's coming from the lead vessel, designated as a command ship. They're requesting to speak with the leader of the human survivors." Maya straightened her shoulders. "Open the channel." The main display shifted to show the interior of the Calaxian command ship. The architecture was organic and flowing, with surfaces that seemed to pulse with their own light. And standing at the center of it all, wearing the ceremonial armor of a Calaxian commander, was a figure that made Maya's heart stop. Marcus Chen, her brother. The boy who had vanished during Earth's final days, presumed dead in the chaos of the evacuation. But he was alive, and he was here, and he was wearing the colors of the empire that had destroyed their world. "Hello." "Maya," Marcus said, his voice carrying the same warmth she remembered from their childhood, overlaid with something colder and more distant. "I've been looking for you for a very long time." Maya forced herself to remain calm, even as her world tilted on its axis. "Marcus, we thought you were dead." "I was," he replied, a sad smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "The Marcus you knew died when Earth burned. I am Commander Zekamar now, 1st Expeditionary Force of the Calaxian Empire. I've come to bring you home." The bridge fell silent. Maya could feel the tension radiating from the other captains, the weight of their collective gaze as they waited for her response. This was the moment that would define not just their reunion, but the future of humanity itself. "Home?" Maya asked, her voice steady despite the turmoil in her heart. "Earth is ash, Marcus. The Empire made sure of that." "Earth was a beginning," Marcus corrected. "The Empire has given us something better. Order, purpose, a place in the greatest civilization the galaxy has ever known. I've come to offer that gift to you and your people." Maya looked around the bridge at her fellow captains, seeing her own determination reflected in their faces. They had not survived 150 years in the void to surrender now. They had not built new worlds from nothing to hand them over to the empire that had destroyed their first one. "And if we refuse?" she asked. Marcus's expression hardened. "Then I will do what I must to protect you from your own stubbornness." "The Empire does not make offers twice, Maya. This is your chance to save your people." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of 7 civilizations on her shoulders. In the space of a few moments, her greatest triumph had become her greatest trial. The brother she had mourned was alive, but he had become the very thing they had fled from. The reunion she had orchestrated was threatened by the empire that had scattered them in the first place. "Captain," said Captain Okafor quietly, "what are your orders?" Maya opened her eyes and looked at the display showing the Calaxian ships. 12 vessels against 7. Advanced technology against human ingenuity, an empire against a dream. The odds were impossible, but then again, so had been their survival. "Signal all ships," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had led humanity through its darkest hours. "Prepare for battle. We did not come this far to surrender now." The choice between blood and freedom, the next 18 hours would be remembered as the longest day in human history. Maya stood in the Prometheus's war room, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of 19 ships locked in a deadly dance. The 7 seedships had arranged themselves in a defensive formation, their diverse capabilities creating a whole greater than the sum of its parts. The 12 Calaxian vessels maintained their position at the formation's edge, close enough to attack, but far enough to appear non-threatening. The Hercules reports weapons systems at full readiness. Captain Volkov's voice crackled over the communications array. "But Maya, we need to talk about reality here. 12 Imperial ships could glass all 7 of us in less than 10 minutes. Maya nodded grimly. She had run the calculations herself, and the numbers were not encouraging. The Calaxian Empire had conquered hundreds of worlds with technology that humanity barely understood. Their weapons could tear apart molecules, their shields could deflect entire stars, and their computers could predict human tactics before they were even conceived. "The Athena has been analyzing their ships," Captain Okafor reported. "The energy signatures are consistent with Class 7 Imperial vessels. Each one carries enough firepower to sterilize a planet. But there's something else. The lead ship is showing power fluctuations that suggest internal conflict." Maya's heart clenched. Internal conflict. Marcus was fighting a war inside his own ship, just as she was fighting one inside her own heart. The brother she had loved was still in there somewhere, struggling against the programming of the empire that had remade him. "All captains, report to the Prometheus immediately," Maya ordered. "We need a plan, and we need it now." Within 2 hours, the 7 captains had assembled in the Prometheus's hydroponics bay. now converted into a strategic command center. The Earth plants created a strange backdrop for discussions of war and survival, their green leaves filtering the artificial sunlight into patterns of hope and shadow. "We can't fight them conventionally," Captain Rodriguez admitted, his weathered hands gesturing at the tactical displays. "The Icarus has manufacturing capabilities, but we can't build weapons fast enough to match their firepower. The Gaia's cultural archives contain information about pre-imperial Earth military strategies," Captain Tanaka offered. "Guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, psychological operations. Humanity has always been good at finding unconventional solutions. The Odyssey scout networks have been mapping this system for the past day," Captain O'Brien added. "There's an asteroid field nearby, and several nebulae that could provide cover. If we can't match their firepower, maybe we can use the environment." Maya listened to each captain's assessment, feeling the weight of leadership settling on her shoulders like a familiar cloak. These people had followed her across the galaxy, trusted her with their lives and the lives of their children. Now she was asking them to risk everything for a principle that the Empire considered naive. "The Lazarus has been monitoring communication frequencies," Captain Patel reported quietly. "There's definitely internal conflict aboard the command ship. Your brother is fighting orders from someone higher up the chain. The Empire didn't just send him here as a diplomat, Maya. They sent him as a weapon." Maya closed her eyes, remembering the boy Marcus had been. Brilliant, compassionate, always ready to help others, even at cost to himself. The Empire had taken that goodness and twisted it into something unrecognizable. But it was still there, buried beneath layers of conditioning and control. "Here's what we're going to do," Maya announced, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had led humanity through its darkest hours. "We're going to remind the galaxy what it means to be human, not through surrender, not through submission, but through the same ingenuity and determination that got us this far." The plan that emerged over the next several hours was audacious in its simplicity. The 7 seedships would use their unique capabilities not as weapons, but as tools of salvation. The Icarus would manufacture a network of communication relays, allowing the fleet to coordinate across impossible distances. The Athena would develop a computer virus designed to disrupt Calaxian command systems. The Hercules would serve as a mobile fortress, protecting the other ships while they worked. The Gaia would broadcast a message of human unity and determination to every inhabited world within 100 light-years. The Odyssey would use its speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of Imperial weapons. The Lazarus would coordinate medical support for all 7 ships, and the Prometheus would serve as the command center for the entire operation. But the most important part of the plan was personal. Maya would attempt to reach her brother, to remind him of who he had been before the Empire claimed him. It was a desperate gambit, but it was also fundamentally human. In the face of impossible odds, humanity had always chosen love over fear, hope over despair. "All ships, begin implementation," Maya ordered. "And remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human child who will be born in freedom, for every world that will choose its own destiny, for every species that refuses to bow to tyranny." The response was immediate. The Icarus began manufacturing communication relays. At an unprecedented rate, their fabrication arrays working in perfect coordination. The Athena's scientists developed a virus that could exploit the organic nature of Calaxian computer systems. The Hercules moved to the front of the formation, its weapon systems painting targeting solutions across the enemy fleet. the Gaia, began broadcasting a message of human unity that would be heard across the galaxy. The Odyssey deployed its scout ships in a complex pattern that would confuse enemy sensors. The Lazarus coordinated medical teams across all 7 ships, and the Prometheus prepared for the most important conversation in human history. "Marcus," Maya said as her image appeared on the command ship's main display, "we need to talk, not as commanders, but as family." Marcus appeared on her screen, his face showing the strain of the past day. The Calaxian armor he wore seemed to pulse with its own light, but Maya could see the exhaustion in his eyes, the conflict that was tearing him apart. "Maya, please," he said, his voice carrying a desperation that cut through her heart. "The Empire is not what you think it is. They saved me when Earth burned. They gave me purpose, direction, a place in something greater than myself. I'm trying to save you from the same fate that claimed our world." "You're trying to save me from freedom," Maya replied, her voice gentle but firm. "Marcus, do you remember when we were children? When we found that injured bird in the garden behind our house? You spent 3 days nursing it back to health, and when it was strong enough to fly, you opened the cage and let it go." Marcus's face showed a flicker of memory, a ghost of the boy he had been. "The bird chose to stay," he said quietly. "It could have flown away, but it chose to stay near us. Because it was free to choose," Maya said. "The Empire doesn't offer choice, Marcus. It offers the illusion of choice, but only if you choose what it wants you to choose. That's not freedom. That's not life." The conversation was interrupted by alarms. The Calaxian fleet was moving, their ships arranging themselves in an attack formation. Maya could see the strain on Marcus's face as he received orders from his superiors. "I'm sorry, Maya," he said, his voice breaking. "I've been commanded to begin the pacification process. Surrender now, and your people will be treated with mercy." "No," Maya said simply. "We choose to be free." The battle that followed would be remembered as the most desperate and heroic in human history. The Calaxian ships opened fire with weapons that could vaporize entire asteroids, their energy beams painting the void in colors that had no names. But the human ships didn't fight back conventionally. Instead, they used their diversity as a weapon. The Icarus released a cloud of manufactured debris that disrupted enemy sensors. The Athena's virus infected the Calaxian computer systems, causing their weapons to fire randomly. The Hercules absorbed incredible damage while protecting the other ships. The Gaia's cultural broadcast inspired human populations across the galaxy to rise up against their oppressors. The Odyssey scouts provided real-time intelligence that allowed the fleet to stay ahead of enemy attacks. The Lazarus coordinated damage control across all 7 ships, and the Prometheus used its biological systems to create a living network that connected all 7 vessels into a single, unified organism. But the most important battle was taking place aboard the Calaxian command ship. Marcus was fighting his own programming, struggling against the mental conditioning that had shaped him for decades. Every order he received from his superiors was filtered through memories of his childhood, of the sister who had never stopped believing in him, of the boy who had once freed a bird because it deserved to fly. "All ships, report status," Maya commanded as the battle raged around them. Icarus taking heavy damage but manufacturing systems still operational. Captain Rodriguez reported, his voice strained but determined. "Athena's virus is spreading through their network," Captain Okafor announced. "Enemy coordination is breaking down." "Hercules shields at 30%, Captain Volkov growled. but we're still fighting. Gaia's message is being received across the galaxy, Captain Tanaka reported with pride. Humanity is rising. Odyssey scouts report enemy flagship showing signs of internal conflict, Captain O'Brien added. Lazarus medical teams are working miracles, Captain Patel said. We're keeping everyone alive. Maya looked at the display showing the Calaxian command ship. Its organic hull was pulsing erratically, its weapon systems firing in random directions. Marcus was winning his internal war, but the cost was devastating his ship. Marcus, she said over the communication channel, you don't have to do this. You can choose to be free. I remember, Marcus whispered, his voice barely audible over the sounds of battle. I remember who I was before they changed me. Maya, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. The command ship's weapons suddenly went silent. Then, impossibly, they turned toward the other Calaxian vessels. Marcus had made his choice. All human ships, Marcus's voice rang out across the communication networks. This is Commander Marcus Chen, formerly of the Calaxian Empire. I am reclaiming my humanity. I am choosing freedom. The battle ended as quickly as it had begun. The Calaxian fleet, faced with the loss of their command ship and the realization that their carefully crafted weapon had turned against them, withdrew to regroup. Marcus's ship, damaged but still functional, took position alongside the 7 seedships. Maya stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, watching as her brother's ship joined their formation. The reunion she had planned had become something greater than she had ever imagined. Not just the reunification of humanity, but the reclamation of what it meant to be human. Welcome home, Marcus, she said, as her brother appeared on the main display, his Calaxian armor replaced by a simple human uniform. It's good to be home, he replied, tears streaming down his face. It's good to be free. The 7 seedships, now 8, began their journey toward a new future. They carried with them not just the survivors of Earth, but the proof that humanity could not be conquered, could not be broken, could not be made to surrender its essential nature. They were free, and they would remain free, no matter what the galaxy threw at them. In the depths of space, far from the dying light of Earth's sun, humanity had found itself again, not in conquest or submission, but in the choice to be free. And that choice, Maya knew, would echo across the galaxy for generations to come.